we'd like to welcome Emily Brand, Chief Architect at Red Hat. Emily has been with Red Hat almost 10 years now, and she helps her customers accelerate cloud-native technology adoption, as well as modernizing and digitally transforming their existing tools and processes. Welcome, Emily, and everyone else back for the Q&A.
Hi, thank you for having me. And great presentations, everyone. Very much enjoyed watching all of it.
Hey, wait, I mentioned that being the only person in the picture, or the only girl in the picture on our tech summit, someone sent me the picture while we were on this. So can I just play that real quick?
Do it.
It's disabled. Okay. And thank you, Todd, for sharing that with me. So there's a picture of all of us who came for the Tech Ops Summit. And that is what we need to change. We need to have more women in this picture. And it's not just endemic to system administration. It is in a lot of areas of technology, and we need to get us out there. But thanks for letting me share that.
Thank you for sharing.
I went to Jenkins World a couple years ago in LA, and there were 150 people, and it was just 2 women, me and 1 more person. So I get what you're saying, Heather. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I went to Google I/O the first couple of years, and I was always the only woman in the bathroom, and there was a giant line for the men. Just like, well, I guess this is one benefit.
AWS reInvent is like that. It's like, oh, there's a massive line for the bathroom in the men's room, and I got my own bathroom. This is great.
Awesome. So let's kick off with this question's for anyone in the panel. What are some of the newer technologies, languages, frameworks that you're currently excited about?
Well, I'm living the Kubernetes life right now, so I think I shared all of that excitement with you all earlier.
Yep, I'm with you, Murriel, for sure. I've been neck deep in Kubernetes for quite some time now. Red Hat was kind of early on the train there, so they forced it down our throats, and we are very happy about that.
You're like, well, we'll observe this because we have to. And, you know, once you land it there, you're like, oh, all right, this is not so bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, before I was a chief architect at Red Hat, I was a consultant. And so that was one of the mandatory trainings, and just like, whoa, this is cool. So for anyone who doesn't know what Kubernetes is, I definitely recommend checking it out. And then for me, I actually recently, this is a bit of an old language, but it's still, well, old in terms of Silicon Valley terms, but I very much recommend looking into React Native. So I just needed to build up a web app or a mobile app really quickly, and it is super easy to learn and set up. And so especially if you're a little bit newer into technology, definitely recommend React Native.
Mm-hmm. And I'll reiterate what Emily and Murriel were raving about Kubernetes. I have, although I'm not focused on it in my current job, I've had the opportunity to go to KubeCon a couple of times, and I'm super excited about the technology. It's great, and we do use it within Ticketmaster, but I am not specifically working with it. Like I said, I'm on the on-prem stuff. So I mentioned configuration management, and right now it's not a new technology, but I am working with SaltStack, and it's very exciting to work with SaltStack when you have currently a legacy configuration management system that goes back to Muriel's XKCD image. I refer to it as 25 years of opinionated people coming up with a configuration management solution, and I'm happy to be working towards the neat and tidy and cleaning that mess up.
Right. I've been fortunate to bring Kubernetes to our organization, so I'm yay to Kubernetes still. And the latest technology or like a project which I'm excited about is error budgets. We've been trying to build error budgets for our team. It's all new for the company, but we are trying to start with, for the people here, if you haven't heard about it, it is like a budget you're given for any particular period of time to make errors, right? Like if you have, you are measuring, first of all, for fundamentally, you need to measure your availability for your site. So if you have like 99% availability, 99.99% availability, so it depends on what is your SLAs. So if you decided on a 99.99 availability, so you have a specific number of minutes per month, you are okay to go down. So if you cross that, your budget is done. So yeah, so that's something, it's kind of challenging when we are trying to automate it, right? So I've been learning a lot around that, and that's one of my top exciting projects right now.
That sounds pretty cool. I wrote a note, so I'll look it up. For me, I think coming from the communication background and wanting to get into Scrum Mastery instead of QA, I personally just love Jira. I know it's like not super techy, but I love being able to communicate with people and have everybody on the same board, and just be kind of more of a cohesive team. So I like those type of things. And yeah, if you guys, I would love to learn more about Kubernetes. I'm not really as familiar, so I'll definitely be reaching out to you guys if you're okay with that. but yeah, Jira all the way.
Yeah. Cynthia, this is for you. So other exciting project I've led and accomplished recently was Jira Migration. So with M&A, we have different Jira instances. So there was so much figuring out,
Yeah.
and making it happen on how to merge all the Jira instances into one. So it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I would love to learn more about that too. That's cool.
Yeah.
I have a serious love-hate relationship with Jira. I won't go into that.
What was the last tech book you read or tech-based podcast you've been listening to?
So I actually just finished the Unicorn Project. So I don't know if most people have heard of the Phoenix Project. It's very, very popular. Gene Kim, all of that. So he just released, I think it was last year or maybe 6 months ago, the Unicorn Project, and it's kind of about the Phoenix Project, but a subset of it. And it's really, really great if you're looking at kind of how to create almost like an innovation team instead of looking at the overall system. How can you kind of be one piece of the system to really instigate change? So I very much recommend it. It's a good follow-on to the Phoenix Project with more modern day technologies as well integrated into it.
I had Unicorn Project in my list as well. I discovered after reading the Phoenix Project that Gene Kim actually has I was reading the book, I think my husband was driving in the car and I'm reading this and I'm like, I do that. Oh my God, I do that. It was very relatable content. And since then I've read a number of Gene Kim books. I have a couple queued up, as well as the Unicorn Project. I have Accelerate, which he partnered on, and the DevOps Handbook, which he partnered on. So those are in my reading agenda at this point.
I have Accelerate on my list too. The latest one I really liked was Growing Influence. It is very relatable to women in tech. And there are so many things I learned from it. And I can share one biggest thing I learned from it is being present in the situation wherever we are. So concentrating, like if I'm going out with my family, being present for them, or doing things at the moment. So yeah. And it's by Ron Prince. It's really interesting. Yeah.
So one thing I was going to say is, one, we should totally start a book club where we talk about reading, Accelerate and Unicorn Project, because, these things are also on my list. One thing that I read or listened to and couldn't figuratively put down was Code Girls. It was like the untold story of the women. Basically, it's about women code breakers during the war. and talking about how they were super instrumental in just working towards these efforts to win the war by going behind the scenes and doing these computing. And they would kind of have to hide what they were doing because it was all super top secret. So they'd have to pretend they were secretaries or something else coming in when they were really doing all of this complicated cryptography and code breaking and working with the computers that they had at the time. And some of them weren't recognized for any of this until they were, you know, in their 70s or 80s, because that was when they were able to start talking about it. It was just so interesting to hear their stories.
That's awesome. I'm definitely looking that up too. For me, I wanted to do the whole transition from QA to Scrum Master. So I would say the podcast that I would have been listening to, it's called Scrum Master Toolbox podcast by Vasco Durante. So if you guys are interested in that type of stuff, it's a really interesting listen.
Awesome. Yeah, and on the podcast front as well, I definitely recommend, I believe it's called Women at Work, and it's by the Harvard Business Review. The first couple of episodes they ramble a little bit, but then they really catch their stride. So very much recommend it. Just kind of talking about different issues that women run into overall on a business standpoint.
I got to look that one up too. I'll say on podcasts, Heavy Networking is one of my favorites. And I like to find things by John Alspa, the Resilience Engineering, Kelsey Hightower, you guys know him from the Kubernetes side, and John Willis. So whenever they're on a podcast, I try to track those down.
Ross, I want to throw a couple podcasts to the list too, because one thing I'm bummed about with not commuting is that was my podcast time. So now I have to figure out where to put my podcast time into it. They just end up building up. But the changelog, I think, is a super awesome one. It's software development and open source. Darknet Diaries is kind of a fun one because it talks about like these things that happen, you know, in the dark sides of the internet. So a lot of just stories about these different hacks and things that had like stories about things that have happened. And then Unnamed Reverse Engineering is a lot of fun also because they just talk about all of these different stories about related to reverse engineering. Last one, and I'm done, is Greater Than Code. They do a lot of these topics related to diversity within technology, and the idea is it's beyond just the code and the tech. It's about all these issues that are sort of tangentially related to the actual tech that we're working on, but that impact us as being in technology.
That one sounds really interesting.
Yeah, and one thing also to add to the list, if you're a history geek, I definitely recommend Command Line Heroes. So it goes through just different topics of history of computing. Really good podcast.
Thanks for all these great recommendations, everyone. If any of our viewers have any questions for our panelists, feel free to ask them in the chat. But our next one is, do you guys have any predictions on the future of remote work for your team and technologists everywhere?
I can take that. No predictions, but the culture of our organization is pretty open, pretty free, pretty flexible. It has always been that. So that makes a big difference in predicting that future, right? So I know we are all not going back for a while now, at least till 2021 summer, I guess. So luckily it just worked out that our lease ran out just before pandemic, like around April, May. So we just had it, and they're figuring those things out. But what me and my manager have been thinking was, once we go back, obviously we cannot demand people to come 5 days. They know how it works, right? But we were thinking we'll maybe take shifts and go at least 2 days a week or something to maintain that moment, like team building and all that. So yeah, that's our plan right now.
Yeah, I actually really like that idea. This is my first work from home, like officially totally ever, or I guess whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. And I think some of the things that are beneficial to this is it saves the company money, in the sense of not having to pay the overhead of an actual building to have to pay for. So instead, that cost is going on the employee. So I pay for the electric bill, I pay for the Wi-Fi, I pay for water, sewer, trash, all that stuff. And so in that sense, it's really nice. And I believe that people are more productive because of it, because we're not having to sit in traffic, and also we're helping the environment from not having to drive. And so, you know, instead of, I had a time one time when I was working in LA, I was driving, I don't know, the 101 to the 240 or whatever that is. And there was some road rage that went on, and I definitely threw water on somebody. And I was like, oh my God, and I went into work and I was so mad for like 2 hours, wasn't getting anything done. You know, I was just so rageful. And then I realized like that was really bad. I'll never do that again. But so, you know, you're happier. I feel, at least a lot of people seem to be more relaxed and calm, and just be able to focus right when they, you know, log on. And also too, about the sharing idea. So I think once we do go back to work, what might be beneficial is if companies start thinking about having, like, if it's a big building, maybe like 5 different companies can all work it out together where they can share that building. So maybe have like 1 day a week, this, you know, is reserved for this group or this company, the next day, so on and so forth. So you can still see each other in real life, but also make new relationships with all these people from all these different companies. So, and then also free up space for housing, even transform these buildings into apartments or whatever. So yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, in terms of talking to my customers kind of around the globe, it doesn't seem like in terms of large enterprise, the technology sector will be changing that much, because most people already have a hybrid work environment and all of that. Totally agree with the less office space. Where I see the biggest change is for all of the non-technology fields, where, you know, your inside sales rep, your marketing person, your finance person, all of those people would have to go into the office every single day. And now they don't, because now they actually have all their tools at home and all of their collaboration tools and all of that. So I don't actually see technology changing too much, except for in the mid-size business where most technologists would actually come into the office. But I definitely see that really taking effect outside of technology, which I think will make everyone happier.
And I'll say, even before the pandemic, I was going into the office 2 or 3 days a week, mostly because I wanted to change scenery and not be sitting in my home office all day. But my team was already distributed across the US, or actually internationally. So my boss is in Virginia. One of my employees is in Thailand. It didn't matter if I went into the office, and that's something that was already moving forward with technology in general. You know, once upon a time, we all had to be in the office for on sales, and we all had to sit there uncomfortably crammed in a conference room so we could all be there to react really quickly. And then we learned that it, you know, works out better when you're sitting at your own desk, or you're not having to drive into work at 5 o'clock in the morning or what have you. But yeah, I think that was Cynthia's point, not having to bring everybody in if they're job doesn't require it, and allowing people to share office buildings and get more room for housing and so on. So we're crammed in here in LA as it is, and we don't need that many office buildings that are vacant, you know, most of the time and so on. And everybody's realizing that work from home is not that difficult of a thing, as long as you've got people who have means to communicate, know each other, can talk to each other, and there's a level of trust that you'll still get your job done. Then I think work from home is the wave of the future.
Mm-hmm.